All right, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. It's David Schmidt, and welcome to our product training webinar this evening. Apologies for a little bit of a late start. Not too bad, just a few minutes. Hope that you're all doing well. We're just coming off of a wonderful 15-year anniversary cruise that was held in the Caribbean. I know many of you that are on this evening. We're on that cruise, and I hope that you all had a great time, an enjoyable time. The Navigator of the Seas was a incredibly beautiful ship, and it's always wonderful. We had more than 300 of our members from around the world on that ship. It was just simply awesome. So today, we're going to be doing a product training, and I'm going to be covering a subject actually that I've never covered before. Usually, of course, what we talk about is our different products and how they work. But this time I thought what we would cover is phototherapy itself. In other words, how do the patches actually change the biochemistry with light? Is there a scientific basis for it? Of course there is. And we want a simple way to understand this. So we're going to be delving into this evening. I think you're all going to enjoy it. Now, keep in mind, this is for your information only. This is not intended to be taught or reproduced because we need to keep the business simple. People that are most successful in the company are the ones that keep it simple and don't complicate things. So this is really for your information only, so you can have a better understanding of how the patches work and how phototherapy works. But please don't go out and start teaching this. You'll complicate the business, and it's not going to help you or the people that you're working with. So for your information only. All right. And another thing I want to get started with is I want to share you, this is hot off the press, I want to share you a testimonial on X39 that's going around. And we're going to start this off because we still have people that are logging in, and I want to give them another moment to get on. So here's a little bit of the backstory here. This is from parents of a 6-year-old boy. Now, the 6-year-old boy caught his finger in a door, and this severed the fingertip off the finger. So they rushed him to the hospital and to reattach the finger. Now, the first thing is doctors told the parents that the finger was going to die, and that it didn't make sense to reattach it, but what they would do is take skin off of the thigh and simply cover up the end, and that would be it. And the father pleaded with the doctor to reattach it. And the doctor said, well, it's not going to work, but okay, we'll do it. So just as the doctor predicted, the tip of the finger began to die. So at this point, they apply X39 and carnosine. Now, keep in mind, they said that this wouldn't even work. And look what happens 2 months later. And I'll minimize that. 2 months after applying X39 and carnosine, the finger looks brand new. Now, not only that, there's another view of it. Not only that, when the doctor saw the results, he was absolutely shocked. And he said, first of all, this shouldn't be possible. Secondly, even if something like this were possible, it would take 12 months to see this level of healing. So there you have it. New testimonial on wound healing, absolutely incredible. And our prayers and thanks go out to this family, and so happy that this young boy could experience this healing, supportive healing with X39 and carnosine. So let's understand this a little bit better. Let's get into phototherapy and understand the body's energy systems and how all these things are possible. And after a brief presentation, I'll go ahead and open up the mic for any questions, or you can simply write in a question. That would be fine too. So let's go ahead and get started. All righty. So let's take a look into phototherapy, and this is a rather complicated subject, and there will be quite a bit of technical things we're going to discuss, but I'll keep boiling this down into a very simple way to understand it. And here it is. What we're going to talk about is that the body has a biochemical system and a bioelectrical system, or an energetic system. The two of them work together. And by understanding this, we can improve the health of the body with light. So that's a way to understand it. The biochemistry, the bioelectrical properties of the body work together, and we can use light as a means for improving our health. So let's get into this. Now, there's a lot of clinical studies that have been done on the use of the different types of equipment to detect the energy fields in the body. Some of these are accepted by mainstream science, others are not. Now, over the years, we have used myography, electrical myography, in some of our studies. We did one with a doctor in Italy, Professor Bruno Brandimart, and what we were able to show was how IceWave provided pain relief using something called surface electromyography. But basically, what's important for you to know is we're taught from when we're very young, oh, when you have a pain, take this drug, take this pill, and it will get rid of your pain, okay? Now, that's all fine, but we're only seeing half the story. The truth is, in addition to the biochemical properties, we also have a bioelectrical system. We have a biomagnetic system. And how do we know this? Because we can detect it. And so here was a study that was published back in 2013, where this myography technique is used to assess lower back pain. So in other words, we can use the bioelectrical properties of the body to detect and assess pain, not just a blood test or a urine test. Now, here's another study that was done. Again, this was published back in 2007, and this is on the use of electrical current to reduce pain and improve the way current flows through the tissue. Again, I don't want to dive too deeply into this on the technical part to lose anybody. So just trying to keep this as simplistic as possible. But this is all to say that this technique has been around for decades. And this is using a mild electrical current to stimulate the tissue, to depolarize the nerve so that we can reduce pain. And this technique certainly works. It's not without its faults. I would not want to be walking around with electrical pads on my body and have to use them all the time. But it's a great alternative to opioids and some other things. But a fact of the matter is that it's very, very well established that we can use the electrical properties of the body to reduce pain and other ways to improve health. That's not debatable. So let's go a little bit further with this, because we're interested in a lot more than pain. We want to have anti-aging effects. We want to promote detoxification. We want to live as long as possible, be as healthy as possible, improve brain function, and so forth. How can we do that using the energetic properties of the body? Well, we're going to start right at the beginning, and this has to do with the way our bodies make energy. And I'm not going to be using any complicated chemistry here. I just want you to get the concept. So this is showing what's called the citric acid cycle, or the Krebs cycle, but it's simply describing how we take food and convert it over into energy that our cells need to survive and do everything that they're doing. And there's a couple of important molecules in here, biochemicals like ATP, NAD. These are molecules that carry energy in the cell. Now, here's the important part that I want to focus on. We take food, and when food goes through this process, essentially what is happening is we're stripping off the electrons that are in the food, and then we're using them to make ATP and NAD. And the reason why this is important is that when you break it down to its most simplistic form, we are like a battery. We're powered by electricity in its most simplistic form. Now, we need the chemicals, of course. We need amino acids so we can build proteins. We need fats so we can make hormones. Okay, so it's that the chemistry is working with the electrical properties of the body. But what's important about this is that if we're essentially powered by electricity, then we should be able to interface with that system for improving our health with energy, as opposed to having to use things like drugs and vitamins. And I'm not knocking either of those, by the way. So let's go one step further. This presentation is about phototherapy. How does phototherapy work? Well, the whole point with this is that the chemistry of the body and the electricity of the body, or the electrical properties of the body, they're working together. And when it comes to light, the chemical compound that carries light is cytochrome C oxidase. Now, you don't have to know what this is. You don't have to remember it. It's just the point that the body does have a chemical counterpart to light, or it has a biochemical that interfaces with light, however you want to look at that. And it's really no different than plants, by the way. Of course, we all accept the idea that plants use light as food, and they need plants need light to survive. Well, human beings are really no different. We need light as well, and we have a mechanism to convert that light over into chemistry. So why is this all important? Because cytochrome C oxidase is the chemical carrier of light in the body. And because of that, now we can stimulate the body with light and produce a desirable change. So if we want to relieve pain with light, now we have a way to study it and understand it. If we want to elevate our antioxidants like glutathione or carnosine, we can do it. If we want to activate the stem cells, we can do it with light. So that's what's so incredible about this. Now, of course, there are clinical studies that verify this. As a matter of fact, over the past 10 years, I would venture to say there are over 5,000 clinical studies now on validating that phototherapy is a real, legitimate scientific effect. No one is debating this anymore. And it's, in fact, approved by the FDA. Light therapy is approved by the FDA, light therapy devices. So no one's debating that. So, but just as an example, here's a study published in 2016. And essentially what the study wanted to look at was, okay, can we take something like a laser in the infrared band, and is it possible to elevate this biochemical? That would prove a connection between the two. And the answer was yes. This study hit statistical significance and in fact showed that when laser light in the infrared band was applied to the body, that there was an increase in the production of cytochrome C oxidase. So there you go, scientific proof that you apply light to the body and then there's a metabolic change. Now, of course, you know, there's other ways to prove this too. You go out in the sun and you get a sunburn, all right? That would tell anybody that's not a scientist, okay, that light is doing something to them. We also know light elevates vitamin D. We know light will elevate testosterone. So all of you men out there that might be interested in getting higher testosterone levels, Getting out into the sunlight is one way to do it, and there's others too. But let's summarize this so we can go to some questions. First, the body has a biochemical system and a bioelectrical system, okay? And the two of these things work together. And that tells us a lot because, you know, we want to have a good diet so we get all the nutrition that we need. We want to drink water to facilitate the biochemistry. But this is all going to make the bioelectrical system work better as well. Things like pain are a biochemical and a bioelectrical phenomena. So this means that we can improve our health not only with things like nutrition, but also with light and other types of energy. By stimulating the skin with low levels of light, like with the patches, we can detect and measure chemical changes in the body. And of course, with products like X39, we do metabolic testing, we do blood testing, we do urine testing, and we measure the changes in the body's chemistry with low levels of light. So this is incredibly exciting because now we have another way of improving our health. Instead of just using vitamins and a good diet and exercise and water to improve our health, now we have a very convenient way of improving our health in some dramatic ways using light therapy. So with that, let's go ahead and go to some questions. And let me go ahead and go to the reading pane over here. All right, let's see what we got. All right, let's see. Okay. Hi, David. Someone found a study that says glutathione actually promotes tumor progression. I'm thinking there's no way. What's your take on this besides the obvious knowledge that glutathione detoxes, etc.? Okay, thanks for asking that question. Yes, in fact, I have seen studies that show this. This is actually a little bit of a tricky subject, but it is good to question these things, and there's people sitting on both sides of the fence. Now, there have been patents issued on the use of glutathione after chemotherapy in support of an overall cancer treatment. You have doctors that use a combination of glutathione and garlic to promote regression of a tumor. And so this is a double-edged sword. It's two different sides of a coin here. So what does that actually mean? Well, you know, there are a huge number of different types of cancers. I think current number is well over 200 different types of cancers. So they're going to have some commonalities, but then also some very significant differences. So this is why we say if someone has a serious medical condition, that they should speak with their doctor about using any of our products. Now, that said, I would really be in the camp of saying, look, glutathione is part of the body's natural antioxidant system. It supports overall immune function, and I don't think this is going to bear out as being true. But I have seen that research, and to me, it's questionable. But that's my personal opinion. Okay. My friend had a hip replacement a week ago. She used X39 before the operation and didn't feel any difference. Where is the best placement now? And what should she be looking for with the X39 results? Okay, we obviously get a ton of testimonials on wound healing. And people have used X39 both before and after surgery and had some remarkable effects. Now, just because someone doesn't feel anything doesn't mean there's something going on. While most people are going to feel something, let's say within the first 1 to 7 days, there's many people that don't notice any difference the first 3 weeks, and then all of a sudden they start to see that their healing is occurring. So there's a few ways of optimizing this. What I would remember and what I would be looking at is that if someone is trying to recover from a surgery, give the body what it needs to recover. In other words, an increase in protein, an increase in healthy fats. You can get into some specifics here, like if you're trying to repair a wound. Collagen is the most abundant protein in the body, so I would be taking things like a collagen shake. Magnesium supplements, most people are deficient in magnesium, and that can have an effect on overall results. But again, I would look to start with a healthy diet. And this is going to play a role in why some people are going to get very dramatic, rapid effects with X39, and other people may not. Okay. We have a new group that came in with a market to African Americans who have sickle cell diseases. One of the symptoms is a lot of pain. Okay, outside of IceWave, what would you do? Okay, again, what I have to say is that if someone is suffering with sickle cell anemia, they'd need to speak with their doctor. I'm not a medical doctor. They'd have to speak with their doctor before using any of our products to make sure it was okay. I'd say with pain, pain is going to be related to inflammation, and there are many different types of inflammatory chemicals in the body. So for example, you have things like C-reactive proteins, inflammatory cytokines, homocysteine, lipid peroxides, etc. So you have all these different types of inflammation. And, what are we going to do about this? Well, a product like Eon is a broad spectrum anti-inflammatory. So generally speaking, when we're dealing with pain, that would be a great one to start with, in addition to IceWave. As a matter of fact, for many years, that was the standard protocol, was to use Eon and IceWave together for pain relief, and it produces great results. I'm actually going to be doing a seminar this weekend, which is sold out, about 3 hours, all on ways to use our products for pain relief. Depending on the type of pain, for example, for autoimmune disorders, when let's say someone has arthritis, Parkinson's disease, MS, those disorders are going to be characterized by low levels of glutathione. So using the glutathione patch in those cases with IceWave can help to dramatically reduce or alleviate symptoms. There are other cases where carnosine can be used to reduce pain, and especially anything having to do with like muscle tears or tendons. Carnosine is really excellent with that. Of course, X39, that's a whole separate case, and that will provide pain relief as well. But we have not done any clinical studies on anyone with sickle cell anemia. So don't, other than saying, yeah, I would start with Eon and IceWave, someone should speak with their doctor first. Okay. Yeah, let me see. Another question here on, yeah, this would be medical. Yeah, we don't test any of our patches with medical conditions. So when I'm asked a question like this, can a person with this disorder use X39 or carnosine? The first thing is carnosine is a naturally occurring antioxidant. Copper peptide is a naturally occurring peptide. So when we're young and healthy, our levels of copper peptide or level of carnosine are optimal. And really what we're doing is restoring those peptides to youthful natural levels. So there shouldn't be any problem. But I can't, say blanketly that that's okay, because we haven't tested the patches for their use in treating a disorder. So you'd have to get permission from your doctor on a purely scientific basis, where we're looking at this as nutrients which naturally occur in the body. You'd have to say probably it would be okay, but I don't want to make that recommendation, and a doctor needs to do that. And yes, comment about the before after photos. Yes, really, really amazing. And yeah, the nail is, let's put those, let me move my picture over here off to the side. And wait a minute, let's use the other one. All right, why? All right, now I lost, oh, there we go. Yeah, I would say the, I can't see it in this photo. But yeah, the color has returned, and the circulation has certainly returned. So sure, the nail is going to keep growing. I think maybe it was a little bit more visible there. Okay. Oh, okay. Since starting X39, I've been more hungry and I have gained about 5 pounds. Is there an explanation for that? Maybe. We do see some interesting hormonal changes with X39. One of the things that we see is an increase in the metabolism of leucine. Now, one thing interesting about leucine is that it's the key amino acid that is involved with hypertrophy, metabolism of new muscle. And so we have men that say, hey, I'm noticing an improvement in my sex drive, I'm gaining more muscle. That is one possible explanation. But of course, we'd have to do tests to see. But yeah, that would, when you get an increase in hunger, you are increasing your metabolism, certainly muscle gain is one possibility, especially if you're doing any resistance training. That might be one question. It could also have to do with repair of tissue. If someone has an injury and the body is cranking up into a mode of repair, generating growth factors to repair that injury, then yes, protein synthesis is going to go up and there's potential weight gain with that. But I don't see that likely with a 5-pound weight gain. It would explain the hunger though, could. Okay. This is an interesting question. I am using a cannabis CBD patch from another company. They recommend using their patch every 24 hours. Please explain why we can't use patches every 24 hours instead of 12 hours. Okay, so simple explanation for this. The CBD patch is a transdermal patch, meaning what the ingredients in that patch are entering the body. Our patches are non-transdermal. The patches work by stimulating the skin with light. So there's no ingredients in the patches that are entering the body. This is light therapy. Now, the patches are actually more effective when using them 12 hours on and 12 hours off. There is a phenomenon in phototherapy that's very well known that if you continue to stimulate the body with light, eventually the body will shut down and stop responding. So that's why we recommend 12 hours on, 12 hours off. You're going to be getting a better effect. Okay. Some questions here about X39 and disease treatment. Sorry, we can't make any recommendations. There was a question here about autism. I once had the privilege of meeting Jenny McCarthy, who was very successful at treating her son of autism with glutathione, and by putting her son on a diet completely free of gluten. So I would look into some of the things that Jenny McCarthy has done in that regards, and there's a lot of literature now linking elevated levels of glutathione and a diet completely free of gluten as an excellent solution for reversing the symptoms of autism. All right, David, would you please answer the concern about a possibility of an imbalance between zinc and copper in the body with long-term use of X39? Okay, so first of all, any of our patches are going to be using any of the naturally occurring compounds in the body and upregulating the metabolism of those nutrients. So it's really up to the individual to have a diet rich in zinc and copper, magnesium, selenium, proteins, fats, and so forth. So the patches are not really going to create a deficit of any one nutrient in the body. The imbalance can occur through improper supplementation, or more likely deficiencies in the diet. So for example, 60% and probably more of the population have a deficiency of magnesium. This is a very, very serious problem because magnesium is involved in over 300 different biochemical reactions. So really it would all come back to proper nutrition from my perspective, not the patches. Okay, all right, here's a good question. I am new, and we'll wrap up in about 5 minutes or so. I am new. Is there any advantage to placing X39 directly on the point of pain versus behind the neck or below the belly button? Any advantage below the belly button versus back of neck, etc.? Okay, well, welcome, and thank you for being a part of our LifeWave family. Now, X39, the beauty of it is wherever you apply it, it's going to work. So, placing it on the back of the neck, placing it below the belly button, you're going to get a systemic effect. We have not done a clinical study looking at any benefits that you can get on one versus the other, but we have done clinical studies with both points, and both points produce very powerful effects. Now, some people feel better applying it right at the point of pain, and there is absolutely no problem with doing that. So let's say someone was suffering with a knee pain, sure, go ahead and apply X39 directly to the knee. We have a member in France, for example, and she injured her knee skiing. She just put X39 on the back of the neck, and a few days later, she noticed she was getting very rapid wound healing in the knee. So really the choice is yours. All right, what type of stem cells, oh God, this is a long answer. What type of stem cells does X39 activate? Okay, I have done other presentations on this subject, so you'll want to go to our YouTube channel and check that out. But basically what X39 does is it elevates a peptide in the body called GHK or GHKCU, which is copper peptide. And copper peptide increases expression of something called P63. And P63 is a regulatory mechanism for proliferation of stem cells in the body. So this means that it will cause the stem cells to proliferate. It also has the very interesting property of taking things like the stem cells that are in the skin and causing them to revert to pluripotent stem cells. And the pluripotent stem cells are these universal cells that can become other cells. Okay. This is a question about eye issues. Glutathione and carnosine are naturally occurring antioxidants in tears, and I might be looking there. I would also be looking at compounds like lutein, lycopene, astaxanthin, zeaxanthin. Those are all naturally occurring molecules known to have beneficial effects on the eyes, depending on what the problem is. Again, I was asked a question here about sickle cell diseases, and we don't have any studies that we could rely on to say definitively, you know, this is how you'd use them. We also can't be in the position of making medical claims. So on that basis, I'm sorry, I can't answer your question. Same thing, similar here. My 24-year-old nephew just finished chemo. What is the best patches for him to use to help his body to heal? That would really be up to a doctor. I would work with a nutritionist. First of all, if someone has cancer, the thing that I would really recommend is ozone therapy. And there are doctors medical doctors in the United States who will administer ozone therapy. It is a wonderful way of not only providing detoxification, but also killing cancer cells directly. So I would actually start with a base of ozone therapy. I'd also be looking at dietary changes. Of course, exercise is important, drinking lots of water. And regarding the patches, that would be a doctor's decision. I would be using maybe things like the Eon patch to help manage inflammation for any discomfort. But again, a doctor needs to make that decision. Is there a way to keep from getting seasonal depression in winter using the patches? That would not be my first choice. First thing is, for seasonal depression, I'd look at two things. First, I'd look at getting indoor lighting that duplicated the natural spectra of light. And this type of lighting is easily available. You can find it on the internet, but they're light bulbs or fluorescent lights that duplicate natural sunlight with the absence of UV. That would be one thing. Secondly, I would look at maybe taking 5,000 IUs of vitamin D. Again, you could ask your doctor about it, but those might be two things that you could look at. We also have the Nirvana product, which would also, I can't say it's a treatment for depression, but it's a mood enhancer, and you could take a look at that. We're about out of time. I didn't even get through 50% of the questions here tonight. Oh my goodness. I did not get through even half of the questions. Well, thank you all for being on here. We have wonderful attendance, and I appreciate your interest. And sorry, the light behind me seemed to go out, funny enough. That's a motion activated light. But that's okay, we're conserving electricity. But anyway, hope you enjoyed the webinar. This has been recorded. It'll get posted to our YouTube channel, and we're gonna have another product webinar before we end the year. And what a great, amazing year this has been. So thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.